Holy good game, what the f***? So this came out of nowhere, and I'm really thankful that it did, because after playing Dummies vs. Noobs, I was pretty down in the dumps. When it comes to game requests, generally speaking, they're one of two things. They're either really good and people want me to play them, or they're total dog shit and people want me to just shit all over them. And there's really not a whole lot of in between in those camps. So when it came to Dummies vs. Noobs, when people suggested it and they said it was really good, and then I played it and I was like, this is just kind of okay, it really had me down. And thankfully with this game, we're getting pulled directly out of that immediately, because this game is phenomenal. And like, what? I can't help but feel like Pizza Game, the game we'll be talking about today, is throwing itself into the dumpster. Because what kind of name is Pizza Game? How does this have anything to do with pizza? Guys, are you trying to fail your marketing? What is happening here? I genuinely don't have a clue. I don't know how this has anything to do with pizza. I guess names are hard, and I get that, but you guys couldn't have come up with something better in order to actually make people want to play the game? Because I'll be honest, when I came in here, I had zero expectations because I had no clue what it was going to be. So pardon my surprise when I get in, and it's a roguelike shooter that kicks major ass and is actually super fun to play. Pizza Game. Fucking Pizza Game. Whatever, man. Regardless, let's talk about Pizza Game, because as I already said, this game kicks ass. Something that I've said in the past, and I'll continue saying to this day, is that you can always tell when a Roblox game is pretty good when you log in, and it's pretty hard to tell that it's even a Roblox game to begin with. And that's the impression you immediately get when you jump into Pizza Game. You get this interesting old retro 8-bit kind of HUD, you're thrown in with 2 dual pistols, you're given absolutely zero direction or tutorial whatsoever, and just told, go. And on normal circumstances, you're probably hearing this and thinking, oh no, Eclipse is about a dumpster all over this game for not having a tutorial, he didn't know where to go, X, Y, and Z. Not even close. This game is the perfect example of a game that doesn't need a tutorial and is fully capable of having you learn everything that you need to know as you play it. Because games like that do exist. I don't play many of them, but they do exist, and this is one of them. You don't need a tutorial to tell you that the little circles at the bottom of your screen are your health. You find that out when you take damage. You don't need a tutorial to tell you that the bullet icons at the top of the screen are the amount of ammo you have. And you maybe need a little bit of a tutorial to tell you that the souls in the top right will make it so if your health hits 0, you'll regenerate all of your health. And souls do more than just that, but at their base value, that's what they do. You get souls from killing enemies, and you'd find that out by, well, shooting the enemies. And considering that the enemies immediately attack you, there's no real reason that you would ever assume that you shouldn't be shooting the enemies. When you complete a level, there's this guy named Drav, and you can give him a percentage of your souls in order to get a buff that you'll be able to use in all of the subsequent floors. And if you don't feed him anything, then you lose 1 max HP. Again, you learn all of this by simply doing it. It doesn't need a tutorial, you learn it just by it happening. And none of the effects are so debilitating that it instantly screws you over and totally ruins your run. It's all about just trial and error. As for the game itself, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. You run through the level, you can pick up different weapons that have different varieties of uses and different amounts of ammo, and you use those weapons in order to kill the enemies. Enemies drop souls, you can use them in the ways that I just mentioned. The goal is to get to the end of the level. As for the enemies that you'll be fighting, there are a huge variety of them. I'll list off my favorites here. The Paladin enemy that you don't encounter until significantly later has a fully automatic shotgun, as well as a force field that surrounds it. Obviously, you can't shoot through the force field, and if there are enemies in the force field, you also can't shoot them. You can spend 30 minutes shooting through the force field and then killing them on the other side, but the real way that you're intended to take this enemy out is to wait until they run out of ammo, charge through their shield, and shoot them from within. It's a cool design for an enemy, and it always shakes up the gameplay when they appear. My second favorite enemy, which is a bit of a spoiler, is Philip the Everlasting. This is the very first boss that you'll fight in the game, and after you defeat him, he stops showing up as a boss and starts showing up as a normal enemy, with almost all of the same moveset that he would have as a boss. I always think it's cool when games take boss enemies and then immediately present them as normal enemies that you just kind of mow through later on in the game in order to show how far you've come as a player. Now granted, obviously the boss has more health than the normal enemy versions do, but the point still stands regardless. And while those two are definitely my favorite, there's plenty more variety here, whether it be default guys with low health that fire at you, these flying angel guys that have 3 hit points and seemingly always hit me, or the melee guys that charge directly at you. And the list goes on, of course. While you're fighting through the arenas, there's also almost always a plethora of explosive barrels, which, if you've played any first-person shooter in your life, you'll know that shooting explosive barrels is a pretty damn good time. Shoot the barrels, blow up all the enemies around them. Self-explanatory. One thing I haven't talked about quite yet is the weapon pickups. Your default weapon is a set of dual pistols. These pistols do 1 damage per shot, they take a long time to reload, and they have 16 shots ready to go before you have to reload. The default pistol is pretty good, but unsurprisingly, pretty much any weapon that you can pick up off the ground is going to be better. There's a ton of variety when it comes to things you can pick up, whether it be a double barrel shotgun, a quad barrel shotgun, which is one of my favorites, a sword that does a boatload of damage and can also deflect bullets back, a revolver that has a built-in aimbot, or whatever the hell this thing is that shoots 8,000 bullets out of it. The end-all be-all is that there's a lot of weapons that you can pick up, and every single one of them is fun to use. That being said, I do feel like the sword is, how do I put this, a bit situational, and it makes me often just run past the swords because I can't think of a good reason to be picking them up, as if I run into people that are far away or certain enemy types where they have shotguns and I need to get close, unless I'm perfectly timing parries with the sword, well, I might just eat a ton of damage, something that's not ideal. I also thought it was a funny and cool touch that when you run out of ammo with any of these pick-upable weapons, when you use the last shot, the next time you click, instead of pulling your pistols back out, you chuck the gun at the enemies, which is pretty cool. As I said already, I have pretty much only good things to say about the game. But that doesn't mean that there aren't some negative things, and I'll be going over those right now. I think the biggest negative for me was probably the dual pistol reload time, because your combo bar, which increases the amount of souls you can get, is pretty much directly timed with the reload of the dual pistols. Which means that even if you kill something and then reload and then immediately try to kill something else, your combo bar's probably been reset. I get that the idea is to try to pick up weapons, but there aren't always going to be weapons available, and it always feels like crap when you're playing and you've just got a combo started and now you have to reload the pistols. I almost wish that the pistols had less ammo available to them, but they reloaded fast. That way you'd have a better chance to continue your combo. After all, it's not like these things do massive DPS anyway, so if you're missing a bunch of shots, you're going to be losing that combo regardless. Another thing that really bothered me was every single time that you finish a level and you give souls to Drav, sometimes Drav will roll you a random bonus that you literally can't use. Like for example, if I get a bonus that makes my armor stronger, but I have nothing that gives me armor, well, why is that even an option? I feel like there should have to be some sort of prerequisite where it can't give you the armor passives if you don't have something that gives you armor, right? I feel like that makes sense, because otherwise it's just wasted and it feels like crap to get a bonus that you absolutely under no circumstances can use. It just doesn't do anything. Sure, it might do something later, but I don't want something that does something later, potentially if I get lucky. I want something that helps me right now. It just seems arbitrary, and I'm not entirely sure why that can happen. And finally, the last negative that I have is not even really a negative at all, and that's that the game is over too quickly. This game is not that old, all things considered, and because of that, it's nowhere close to finished. As of right now, the suburb stage is the only stage in the game, which explains the low player counts overall. Some of the people who requested this game to me wanted me to shed light on it so that way it would get more players, and I have to wonder, well, that's probably not going to be very successful, because once people are done playing, they're just done playing. I mean, I'm not going to be playing anymore because there's nothing to play. The 2 boss fights that are currently in the game are really good, but honestly, I almost feel like the game should cut to the splash screen that you get at the very end of the game saying, hey, we're done, after the second boss, because as it is, you can play 2 or 3 stages in the sewer level, but the quality immediately just takes a nosedive because these levels clearly aren't done. There's no music, enemy placements are extremely sporadic. I think there's only one layout of the levels, whereas in the suburbs there's a whole bunch of layouts. It's just so abundantly clear that it's not finished and leaves a bad taste in your mouth when it should have just ended at the boss. But as I said, that's not really a negative, it's more of a I wish I had more to play. Overall, I had a really good time with Pizza Game. It even has something that I don't think I've ever seen in a Roblox game, which absolutely blew my mind when I first noticed it, and that's that you can pause the game. What? Holy shit! That just blew my fucking mind. Seriously, I don't think I'm going crazy here. How many Roblox games have you played where you can pause? Mind blown. And while I do think that the kind of filter that's over your screen can get a little bit grating at times, it doesn't nearly take away from the rest of the experience. If you've got an hour of time on your hands, I highly, highly, highly recommend giving Pizza Game a shot. And I hope that at some point maybe they decide to change the name to something more reasonable, because Pizza Game is not working, guys. What the hell is Pizza Game? With that though, I am wrapping up here. So naturally, if you enjoyed the video and liked this game, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't do those things. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.